Hi guys, my name is Bobby. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm bringing you my February TBR. So, sorry I haven't posted in a while. I think my last post was my last wrap up. I have zero creativity. So I've kind of run out of steam, and even watching other people's booktube videos and stuff, a lot of the ideas are good, but not something that I would necessarily want to do or really know how to do, like some of the tier rankings and stuff like that. So I'm just kind of like, I'm an old lady, and I'm just here to talk about what I want to read and what I end up reading. And spoiler alert, my January wrap up is going to be very, very long. As it stands, with 2 days left to go in the month, I have completed 8 books and DNF'd 3. So we will have 11 books to talk about. I'm going to try to finish at least one more in the next 2 days, which would bring it up to 12. So that'll come probably sometime next week. So you're going to need to prepare because that'll probably be a long video. But as for my February TBR, February is like a short month. It's Fanro Feb. So, you know, Becca and Ashley and all of them, they're doing, this is when they read fantasy romance a lot, which I haven't really read that much in the past year. I've kind of, not that I was tired of it, but I kind of over inundated myself with it in 2020 because I was just trying to read anything, and that kind of caught my attention, and they were quick reads I could read on Kindle. But lately, the only thing I want to do is listen to audiobooks. Like, I have not read anything physically in months. I can't even count how many months. Every single thing that I read in the month of January so far has all been on audio, and I've been consuming tons and like going through them quickly and enjoying a lot of them. So this seems to be the medium that my mind wants to use to consume the books, and that's just, I'm rolling with it, because as long as I'm reading, I don't care. And it's actually brought up some memories of like when I was in 6th grade, my teacher, 5th and 6th grade, like he would, when we were supposed to have quiet time, just supposed to be like working, he would sit at the front of the class and he would read to us. He would read a book, and one book sticks out in my mind. I don't remember what it's called. I kind of remember what it was about, but not very well, not very much. I just knew it took place in Mexico. But he would read to us at the front of the class while we were doing work. And I remember, since I was, you know, a smarty pants teacher's pet, I'd always have all of my work done. So I would literally like take a black marker and like make all these like scribblies, like whatever, to make little gaps. And then I'd use markers to color it in, because that's just something to do. And I always found it really soothing that somebody was reading to me. So I don't know why I had such a hate or distaste for audiobooks in the past. I don't know if it's just because I just didn't try it or find something that worked for me, or thought you either had to listen super fast or super slow. I don't know what my issue was, but since I've kind of gotten into them now, I can't get enough. I mean, I got rid of my Scribd subscription though, because I felt like Scribd and Audible, it was just too much. Audible, I like better. It costs a little more and you only get 1 credit a month, but their Plus catalog is pretty decent. And with that one, you can get brand new releases, which is what I'm going to do with one of these books that I'm going to talk about now. So, February TBR. First and foremost, this is going to be like no shit for everybody. I'm going to read House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. It is book 2 in the Crescent City series. Don't know how big this series is. House of Earth and Blood is book 1. It's over there. And House of Sky and Breath is book 2. It is not here. I do not have it yet. There should be a picture on the screen somewhere. Becca pre-ordered it for me as my Christmas present, so it'll be coming once it gets here. I'm not going to read it physically. I'm going to listen to it on audio. It's available through Audible. Both the Crescent City books are Audible exclusives, so I will be reading that. I will be consuming it on audio. It was a struggle for me to get through book 1, reading it physically, so hopefully doing book 2 on audio, it'll be a little bit easier. I've actually finished that book in the month of January, so you'll hear my thoughts on it when you get to my wrap up. Also, I just need to point out that Dave Grohl is on my chest, and I couldn't be happier. This is a Christmas gift from my sister-in-law, and it's amazing. And when I look down, it's like, oh, his hands are on my boobs. We're just gonna roll with that. And now I've gotten completely off track. The second book I want to talk about for my February TBR is Vicky and my Random Reads book club pick for the month of February. And we are going to read Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. This was actually a Christmas gift in 2022. Did I keep it? I didn't keep the slip. I know who this is from. This is from Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction. I believe she got it for me for Christmas in 2020. Either way, I know this is a gift from Ashley, and she really, really loved this book. And so I convinced Vicky to read this book. Takes place in the 1800s. I want to say it's at 1700s, 1893. So this is very much the suffragette movement, but with witches. So it encompasses like the women's rights, the suffragette movement and women's rights and all that, but also with witches and witches' rights. So it gets a little, what is the word for it? Not mystical, which I guess that works. Magical realism a little bit. So takes place in an actual thing that happened in history and based in fact, somewhat, but with a magical twist. I'm really excited to read this, and I'm not going to read this physically. I'm going to buy it on Audible and listen to it. First of all, this is a very beautiful book, but it has deckled fucking edges, which I cannot stand. And I'm not reading physically, like I said, so I'm going to be listening to this on audio. I'm really excited about this one. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I have not read the 10,000 Doors of January. That one I've heard kind of mixed, and this is kind of more my speed, historical fiction-y, magical, whatever. I hope I really love it, and I hope Vicky does too, because, I mean, this has got enough historical and only a little bit of magic, so hopefully she enjoys it. But if you want to join us, our Goodreads group is always linked in the description below. So I mentioned fantasy romance, and I have to listen on audio because I don't think I'm going to be able to do physical books. So there's one physical book that was a gift from Becca, I believe. I believe so. I've gotten smarter now with my gifts and actually kept the gift receipts in there so I remember who got them. Funnily enough, I usually do remember, like there's 2 other books on my TBR that were gifts that I remember who gave them to me. I'm pretty sure this one was from Becca, but it's on Audible in the Plus catalog, so I can read it for free. And that's The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. This is a story of like it's fantasy where like the female from the one kingdom has to marry the guy from the other kingdom, but she's supposed to kill him and, you know, fighting for power, that kind of stuff, but it's fantasy romance. Becca really liked this. This is a trilogy. The entire trilogy is on Audible Plus. So if I like this one, I can move on and listen to them for free without using any of my credits. I kind of went on Audible Plus too and looked to see if there was any fantasy romance, and I found a couple. So I found this one, which I do own a physical copy of. So this one I'll definitely be getting to in February. The other fantasy romance books that were on there was a book called Reign of Dragons by Olivia Ash. I didn't even look to see what this is about. I just saw dragons and fantasy. It's a dragon shifter romance. I remember that part. Other than that, I do not know the synopsis. And the third one is another dragon shifter romance. Don't know why I picked both of these, called How to Date Your Dragon by Molly Harper. This one is an Audible exclusive. It's through the Audible Plus catalog. There is multiple, I think there's 5 or 6 books. It takes place in a made-up city in Louisiana, where this is a world kind of like the Sookie Stackhouse True Blood world, where there are magical creatures and humans, and currently in this story, they live in the same world, but the humans don't know the magical creatures exist, except for in this small town in Louisiana where they all live together harmoniously and everything's fine. And so they're still kind of secretive. So it's a little bit like the Sookie Stackhouse series. And so this one is about a woman who comes to town, and they're not really big on outsiders. And so she's working with the sheriff on something, and the sheriff she falls in love with, and he happens to be a dragon shifter. So we'll see how it goes. They're pretty short audiobooks. They're 6 hours long, which I listen on 1.75 to 2 times speed, which means I can listen to it in 3 hours. So I could knock out a couple of those like in a reading sprint, if I wanted to. And it seems like every single one has a different like mythical male creature. Like there was one that has a male banshee, which is kind of cool. So it just seemed interesting. So I'm going to try this one out and see how I like it. And the next couple books on my list are just maybes. They're not set in stone. All these 4 books I have on hold for my library through Libby for audio, and it's whenever they come in. If they happen to come in, I'm reading them. They're not fantasy romance. They're not something I have to read, but we'll just see if they show up. If they show up, they do. I think first on the list, I think only has a 2-week wait, so should show up, because there was a book that I read just yesterday. I read it an entire day that had an 8-week wait on it, and it showed up a couple of days ago. So it all depends on if people even actually want them or not. So all of these have a 2 to 4 week wait, so hopefully they show up in the month of February. But the first one is The Dowry of Blood by is it S.T. Gibson? This was a gift from Harry. Thank you, Harry, for Christmas. This is a retelling of The Brides of Dracula. I've heard nothing but good things about this. It's relatively short. So once the hold comes in, I'll be reading it. Next is, this one has, I think, a 3-week wait. But it's The Library of the Unwritten by A.J. Hackwith. This was a gift from Mel, for my birthday, I believe. And this is this is about like the Library of Hell. Head librarian of the Unwritten Wing, a neutral space in hell where all the stories unfinished by their authors reside. So her job mainly compares of repairing and organizing books, but also keeping an eye on restless stories that risk materializing as characters and escaping the library. So a hero escapes from his book and tries to find the author, and it's her job to catch him. It just sounds kind of cool. A Library of Hell, and it has a sequel. So I'm really excited that my library has the audio for this, and I can't wait for it to come in. And the next two are Book of the Month picks that I want to get to that are on hold, and they're newer. One of my Book of the Month picks for January, I need to look to see if the library has it. I really hope, and I'm going to put it on hold, because I really want to get to it. But both of these I also want to get to. A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. I talked about this in last month's TBR. Still hasn't come in for my library. This one originally had a 12-week wait, and now it's got, I think, a 4-week wait. So it's moving up. So other people are either reading it or taking their holds off or whatever. So, you know, and it's a thriller. Thrillers I can read in one sitting on audio. So, and this isn't very long. And I've heard pretty good things about this one. This one is... Oh, yes. The woman whose father was convicted of killing teenage girls when she was a teenager. Now she's an adult. She's a psychologist, and murders that are similar to his have started happening again, even though he's in prison. So, yeah. So we'll see. We'll see if it comes in. And the last one that I have on hold for my library, I think, has the longest wait. I believe it has 4 or 5, so it's slim that would come in, but that's The Maid by Nita Prose. This I was excited to read about. This is about a maid who she's neurodivergent. I know that for sure. It doesn't specifically say what kind of neurodivergence she has, but it's very obvious to me that she is, just from reading the synopsis. And she was raised by her grandmother, who taught her how to live and how to interpret life to make it easier for Molly. And that's her name, right? Molly? Yes. And so as her grandmother dies, and she's a maid in this hotel, and, you know, she's trying to figure out how to navigate life without her gran. And then there's a murder in the hotel in one of the rooms that she cleans, and she's kind of a suspect, and it's trying to figure out, you know, kind of a mystery around this, but with a neurodivergent character. Now, from just reading the synopsis, it seems to me like Molly is an autistic. I could be wrong, but the things that are described just in the dust jacket in the synopsis reminds me a lot of my son. So that very much intrigued me, like having a main character who's autistic. If it's not expressed as autistic, I guess I can't critique it that way as a mother of someone with autism, but it's different for everybody. I wish there were more books with autistic characters who were not as high functioning. They're very hard to write, though, because a lot of them can't communicate or struggle to communicate. So it'd be very hard to write a story with one. But most of the ones that are on page autistic are usually pretty good representations, but they're so high functioning. It's just like little neuroses. It's not, I don't know, it doesn't seem as authentic. Like, I want to see a book with an autistic person who struggles with communication, who like can't communicate very well, like my son, who can only speak in like very small sentences and, you know, can only really answer yes or no questions, you know, who spends most of his time in his head. Because, I mean, it would be hard to, even if they weren't the main character, just to have a character and what it's like to be a parent to one or something like that. I guess it's I want to see myself in a book kind of deal. But this really intrigued me, considering the woman is neurodivergent and very much seems to be on the spectrum, though I could be wrong. But the markers are there. So hopefully this comes in for my library as well. Okay, guys, that's it. That is my February TBR. So I will definitely be reading Once and Future Witches. For sure, for my book club. I'm super excited about that one. And we'll just kind of see how it goes from there. Hopefully some of my library holds come in, because that's always fun when I get the notification. It gets me excited to pick them up. And we'll just kind of see what fantasy romance I can find on Audible. And my library doesn't really have that much fantasy romance. I mean, I'll take a gander and see. But hopefully the Plus catalog and going through Kindle Unlimited, a lot of times some of those will have Audibles attached. So we'll see. But I'm planning to get a lot read, hopefully in February, just like I have in January. Pretty excited. Please let me know in the comments down below what you're reading for February. And I will see you guys in my very long January wrap up, which will be coming hopefully sometime later this week or next week. But it's going to be a long one. So I'll see you guys then. Bye.